Hi everyone, it's Ileana and I have another card share for you today. I am going to be using the Mama Elephant Reindeer Games, the Big Scripty Greetings stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I'm also going to be using a couple things that are lawn fawn, or I should say 3 things. I'm using the Spring Showers die set, the Puffy Clouds die set, and the Stitched Rectangle die set. To start, I'm taking my sentiment and I'm just centering it using the free download that's on mysweetpetunia.com. I'm just centering the greeting. I'm not going to stamp anything just yet. I'm just getting everything ready. And what I plan to do is to use that to help figure out where to stamp on my cloud. And I don't want the clouds to be identical so it looks like it's the same cloud behind the other one. So I'm trying to figure out how to make the same die look different. And what I did was I used my small scrap of cardstock and I lined it up against the MISTI so that I had enough room for my sentiment to go on there. Ran it through my die cut, and then I carefully peeled it off and I repositioned it so that the edge of the die could be inserted at the end of the die cut. And now I have a really long cloud. So I'm just positioning it and I marked it so that I could trim it. And now that it's trimmed, I'm going to use my stitched rectangles to put the border around the edge of the card. I created another cloud and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just trying to position it so that it doesn't look like it's the same cloud. And once I figure it out, I go ahead and I use my stitched rectangle again to trim it out. Not that I needed the stitching on it because you're not going to see too much of it behind the cloud, but just so that it would be exactly the right size. Now I've put my 2 little reindeers that are jumping onto my MISTI, and I'm just going to stamp them a couple of times in case that I mess up with my Copic coloring. And I'm using the Tuxedo black ink from Memento because it's Copic friendly. And I'm just flipping my cardstock because once I trim the little reindeers out, you can still use the center part of your cardstock. I'm not going to get too much into coloring because it's such a small space and coloring takes forever. And you'll see here that I didn't like my coloring, so I went back and I stamped out a couple more sets of reindeer and colored them in. Now I'm over stamping with some VersaFine. And I like to go back and overstamp because I think it adds a little bit of detail, and I don't like to do it before I color because it kind of gets in the way of your coloring with markers. I'm just going to use some detail clear embossing powder. I'm going to heat it with my heat gun, and then I am going to use the matching dies that coordinate with the stamp set to trim them out. And I was super careful to get those centered. The last time I used this die, it shifted, and so I wanted to make sure that my little critters didn't get off center. That kind of just drives me nuts. I didn't like the plain cardstock for the sky, and so I pulled out an old card kit, and I keep my 6x6 papers that come in a card kit. I keep them together by using a sandwich bag. It's just the right size. You can just kind of trim the edge of the zip, and your cardstock will fit in there, and you can zip it back up, and then all your pieces are together. Now I'm using the sun from the Spring Showers to create a sun, and I found a pattern that was similar to the splotchy background that I found that would match really well. And I kind of had a theory on why I don't use my pattern paper very much, and that's because you have to like go through your hordes of 6x6 pads to find just the right card, just the right pattern to fit your card. So I added some ATG gun to the bottom of my cloud, and I did put some foam adhesive at the top. I didn't want it to be too bulky, so I only did part of it. And now I'm going to be stamping my sentiment using Versamark. And I'm going to use the generic gold embossing powder from Recollections. It's a pretty nice gold embossing powder and I really like it, and I've had it for a long time. And I didn't have my embossing buddy because I have no idea where it disappeared to. I tossed it in my embossing drawer and now I can't find it. So I will probably need to get another one, and then once I get the other one, I'll find my original one. So, but for now, I'm just going to use a little detail brush to clean off any strays. And I'm going to melt the powder with my heat gun. And I made sure that it was super hot so that it wouldn't warp my paper. Now I'm adding adhesive to the cloud. And I'm only doing the top part. The bottom part will be flush so that it's not too terribly bulky. And now that everything's put together, I'm going to add my sun, and I did use the clear tack adhesive because I didn't want it to be seen under the sun rays, and so I just used a little bit of this clear stuff. It's really stretchy, so it was a little difficult to get the tiny strips to go exactly where I want them because they kept sticking to my fingers, and then I would put them on the card and then it would stretch. And now that that's all taken care of, I'm just going to use my Wink of Stella clear pen to add a little bit of shimmer to the sun. And I'm also adding it to the rims of the clouds, just to add a little bit of an interest, but not to color in the whole cloud, just the stitching around the edge of the clouds. Thanks so much for sticking with me, and be sure to give the video a thumbs up. And be sure to share with everyone. Have a great day.